Thank you, Mike. As you can see, I'm here in the wasteland. We have a high pressure system happening in Denver, and another one over here in New York. We've got things rising. Producer. What is up, fantasy fans, fantasy players, fantasy owners? I am Bigz. He is Grindberg. It's Grindberg and Bigz. This is the Fantasy Forecast with Grindberg and Bigz. How are we doing today, Grindberg?
I am doing good. This is post NFL draft season now. Wow, what a weekend!
Finally.
All the hype is now kind of dissipated. We had some actually some moves this week and free, some weird signings like Zeke coming in, and now he's back with the Cowboys. But the draft was
blockbusters like Michael Gallup to Las Vegas. Woo! To the moon, baby.
To the moon. Yeah, exactly. So, we've got some stuff to talk about. Like we need to talk about this draft and, how it shook out. And there are some pretty interesting landing spots. There were some, really big shocks that happened. There were some disappointments. There were some really good landing spots. How did you enjoy the weekend, Biggs?
I don't remember. No, it was very busy. I had a great weekend. It was very fun. A lot of things happened, but it was very tiring. I did a lot of work throughout the weekend, and by like Sunday, Monday, I was recording podcasts, just like going, I don't feel like doing this right now. But I muddled through because if there's anything I'd rather be doing, I don't know what it is at this point. Maybe playing baseball. That might be the only thing that I can talk about on YouTube. To gauge the interest of the NFL draft with redraft players is a little bit different than the world in which we skip and frolic. That's Dynasty. And we were fully locked in. Redraft, 53-man rosters mean a little bit more, so we have a few months. But the reason that you're watching this show is because you're getting this stuff now that you're not going to need in August. For example, this episode, we're talking about our QB draft risers, right? Guys that benefited from their draft position. And it's a little bit of a two-edged sword because I didn't want to go with the conventional. Obviously, Caleb Williams is going to benefit by being drafted by Chicago, and Jaden Daniels is going to benefit by being drafted by Washington. And those guys are going to be cromulent redraft assets. I went in a little bit of a different direction. I went with Jordan Travis. And the reason I went with Jordan Travis is because not necessarily he's not necessarily going to be the quarterback from day one in New York. Obviously, that's Aaron Rodgers. But there are two things. Number one, Aaron Rodgers is 40 years old. In sports age, that's pretty advanced. Now, Tom Brady played till he was 40. Tom Brady is one person. And we are not in the business of predicting the future. We are in the business of predicting what's most likely. And what's most likely? A 40-year-old quarterback winning an MVP or a 40-year-old quarterback tearing his Achilles. One of those is more likely to happen. I'm not saying that's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers, but that would be more likely than Aaron Rodgers being able to play on a Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers MVP level. However, I say that Tom Brady did it. So, but he's the one, right? So essentially what I'm saying is if anything happens to Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Travis is going to be in a perfect position towards the back half of the season to take over the team. He's going to be better right off the bat than Zach Wilson. He's going to be better right off the bat than the other guys that the New York Jets kicked around last year behind Aaron Rodgers. Am I hoping that Aaron Rodgers lasts the full season? Of course. Shout out Chico, California. Hashtag Go Cal. I'm an Aaron Rodgers fan, apologist, whatever. But if anything happens and you happen to have Jordan Travis at the very back end of your roster, just kind of sitting there, and you don't need to give up a waiver spot to grab him, you benefit as he benefits. And I think of all of the backup quarterback positions right now, there were two that were pretty darn good. Number one is New York, and number two is Atlanta. You got two aged men coming off of Achilles injuries. How quickly are they going to be rehabbed? We saw a video of Aaron Rodgers throwing. There's a lot of atrophy on his injured leg. His leg looked really, really skinny. He's not quite back 100% yet. He might think he is. He might be able to do a lot of the athletic things that he was doing before, but physically he's not totally back. So as we get closer to August, this is all going to change. But as of right now, I'm keeping an eye on the New York Jets quarterback situation with the idea in mind to pull the trigger on Jordan Travis as quickly as possible.
Yeah, man. I mean, the Jets traded the number 185 and the 190 pick to the Eagles to get him in the 5th round on Saturday. So, he is one of the most productive quarterbacks in Florida State history. 10,000 yards passing, 99 touchdowns. He was just a beast.
Over 2,000 yards rushing.
Yeah, I mean, and in 2023, he was a beast before he broke his leg. So he would have been one of the top guys taken in this draft had that not happened. And I think he's a diamond in the rough. Like you said, he could be a guy that is now sitting behind Aaron Rodgers. He's a guy in Dynasty I'm going to be all over. But in 2 quarterback leagues, he may be a guy just in deep leagues I have a bench spot for. But like you mentioned as well, he's a guy you want to keep your eye on because of all that pedigree and the fact he went under the radar in the draft because of that injury. Yeah, I like Jordan Travis quite a bit, honestly, as well.
In my first rookie draft in Dynasty of the season, last night, I made a trade so that I could get the pick before the one that I already had. And with that traded pick, I drafted Jordan Travis.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about risers in the draft, okay? So we're talking about people that we need to keep our eyes out for because before the draft, not many people were talking about these guys a whole lot. And my quarterback that I'm going to talk about, similar situation, but this guy actually got first-round draft capital, and that is Bo Nix. I'm going to be talking about Bo Nix, who his draft stock, his stock in fantasy football actually skyrocketed over the weekend because of that draft capital he got. Whether you believe it or not, or you want to believe that Bo Nix got 12th pick overall, it did come to a surprise, seemed like a reach. So what do the Broncos see in Bo Nix that caused them to take him so early on? Don't get me wrong, he was a first round, prospect in a lot of people's models, but him going at 12 was a shock to a lot of us. Bo Nix is 6'2", 214 pounds. He's got a decent arm. People like his mechanics. He's not as good as mobility, but he's going to be able to get you those extra yards in the pocket if he's forced to get out of it. His legs will chip a little value here and there, and his accuracy is pretty decent. He's very, very good at protecting the ball, so I think this is a very good landing spot for Bo Nix. He has coach Sean Payton, who had a pretty good run with Drew Brees, so the Broncos' offensive line is actually pretty good, and they aren't decimated as people think at the wide receiver position. They just drafted Troy Franklin. He was a first round, pedigree in a lot of people's metrics, and I'm very, very high on Troy Franklin too. Still, we know all about that. All of us at the Indroppables, we think that Troy Franklin is a very, very sneaky pick, especially in that landing spot with the Broncos that has a pretty wide open wide receiver room outside of Cortland Sutton, who is coming off
Marvin Mims.
Yeah, I'm going to mention Marvin Mims too, but Cortland Sutton is the guy that people have their eye on as kind of the bona fide number one in that offense. He is coming off his second best season. He did play 16 games and had 10 touchdowns. And that's pretty remarkable when you think of how ineffective the Broncos were as an offense. So Sutton is his name is in the trade rumors right now, which could come to fruition. And Marvin Mims, like you said, is a guy to keep your eye on as well. That speedster, he was a guy that Sean Payton moved up for in the draft. So that is somebody that you're going to really want to keep your eye on as well. But as we get back to Troy Franklin here, Bo Nix here, it's really, really important to keep in mind that we're talking about a guy that isn't going to be drafted as a starting quarterback in one quarterback leagues. No, we're talking about a guy in a 2 quarterback super flex league that could potentially become a valuable asset for you down the line, because he, whether we want to admit it or not, first round draft capital, he's going to get the start, and he's going to have the opportunity to fail or succeed. And, he's going to have a little bit of longevity there too. So in 2 quarterback leagues, I'm not against picking up Bo Nix later on. He's a guy that the Broncos are invested heavily in, and they're stuck with him. So, Bo Nix could be a guy you want to keep your eye out for in the later rounds as a flash play. He's a low end, QB2, high end QB3 that can be very valuable down the stretch in Superflex leagues.
Well, from all of the draft season talk that we have done, that I am not high on Bo Nix. Essentially, what I called Bo Nix throughout the entire process was the last quarterback in the draft who was good enough to be able to step in and be a starter from day one. That hasn't changed. He did land on a team where, let's face it, his competition in training camp is going to be Jarrett Stidham and Zach Wilson. There is a possibility that Sean Payton's going to be like, we're going to go with the veterans because, but you also brought up Troy Franklin. Troy Franklin is another piece of this puzzle. Troy Franklin being Bo Nix's target at University of Oregon. They've been working together for a couple years, and the UN score over at the Undroppables has Troy Franklin as number 3 in this wide receiver class. So that's kind of a huge boom for Bo Nix, and I think as bad as it was for the Broncos to use the number 12 pick on Bo Nix, because I think that's a bit of a reach as far as his talent level is concerned, it does mitigate that a lot by grabbing Troy Franklin to pair with him. Troy Franklin is an excellent outside wide receiver. He's going to have to work on putting on some weight, but his relationship with Bo Nix is already there, and that's going to be huge. I'm as out on Bo Nix's talent as I am because of this landing spot and the fact that he's risen so much. I'm a little bit higher on him right now than you are. In 2 quarterback leagues, I still don't know if I would take him as my 3rd quarterback in a 2 quarterback league. In a 1 quarterback league, I can see him putting up top 15 production. So if he is the available pickup, if you draft Jalen Hurts and Jalen Hurts is Hurts, or if you draft Patrick Mahomes and Patrick Mahomes goes down, I can see Bo Nix being a good enough replacement on a points per game basis, just because of his age, how experienced he is, the fact that he runs a little bit, all of those things. So single quarterback, I see him as a good backup to have. 2 quarterback, I see him as a good backup to have, but spend to get 2 better quarterbacks, please.
Yeah, no quarterback in this draft has taken more college snaps than Bo Nix, and perhaps all the playing time will help him make
nobody ever.
Yeah, exactly. Bo Nix is a dual threat quarterback, right? 5 years of starting experience. He enters the NFL coming off a really banger of a season, 45 touchdowns, 3 interception ratio. His accuracy numbers have, gained over his first 3 seasons when he was at Auburn and now at Oregon. He completed 59% of passes to Auburn and then jumped up to, over 70% at Oregon, 74% to be exact. So Nick should come come in and be the Broncos starter, putting him immediately at high end, like quarterback 3 numbers, like we talked about, so unplayable in one quarterback leagues unless somebody goes down. But, in these situations, this is the type of player that might win you your league. And that's what we're doing here is we're building championships, right, Biggs?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Go ahead and like this video. Subscribe. Hit the bell so you'll know when our next episode drops. Share it around. Not with your league mates. Don't let your league mates in on this, but share it with your other friends. And go ahead and find us on Twitter. I'm at BigBonedFFB.
And I'm at FF Canuck 99. And you can find all our stuff here at the Fantasy Football Advice Network. Remember to follow us. We're growing and we're growing quickly, and this show is gaining speed. So thanks everybody for tuning in and continuously to tune in and keep those comments coming down the pipeline, because we definitely love it.
And look out for our next episode, which will be on rising wide receivers. Also, there is big news afoot over at Fantasy Football Advice Network. Big news. Big news. Not Big's news. Big news. Something's coming, you guys. I can hear the footsteps. It sounds like thunder.
Thunder. Let's go.
I hope you win.
Hope you win.